This is Cynthia with Bliss in the Garden. I'm out here having some coffee this morning, trying to work on a raised bed. I wanted to work with the square foot gardening method and then realized my bed is not the typical size that a square foot gardening typically is. So I wanted to show you how I'm going to do it anyway. This is a great garden method invented by Mel Bartholomew in the 80s. And there is a book, to which I will link in the description, that gives you all the details. I am not a by the book kind of person though, but I do use the spacing concept that he came up with. And I also mix his method with my method, which is actually what happened on this raised bed. The whole concept of square foot gardening is just gardening on square foots, 1 by 1, so 1 square foot, right? And in that square foot, you learn what crops to put in to make it the most efficient. You can use that concept of the 1 foot by 1 foot anywhere in your garden, whether you do it on a raised bed or whether you do it in the ground. And that's what's cool about it, because it helps you with spacing and also getting to know how spacing works for each of your plants. And I actually like it. I feel like it saves you space. So if you're limited on space, you definitely could use this. This is the house, and here's a fence, but of course we have property that goes back. And this is where the bed is. This is leftover wood from DIY projects, so the boards are not the same height. We nailed the boards together at the corners and added a piece of wood for additional support. It's a very fast build. Also, this raised bed is not the size of a typical square foot garden. Normally, the beds for those are either 4 by 4, giving you 16 square feet, or double that, 4 by 8, giving you 32 square feet. And you can configure beds any size you want, really. Just make sure that you have squares that are 1 by 1 and that you can easily walk around it without hurting your back to reach over. The whole concept is that you want to make your squares 1 by 1. Let's look at this non-typical square foot garden bed. I decided to use the side with 3 feet and divide it accordingly 1 foot apart. On the other side, I only used 2 feet from each of the sides and was left with 3 feet 5 inches in the middle. I could have also used 3 feet from each side and only have 1 foot 5 inches in the middle. But because I am not super typical, I left the middle to play and plant sunflowers. I also might want to add different crops, and I've left room for me to add more plants if I want to do that later in the summer. We're going to use some string to kind of let me know where the squares are so that I know exactly how I'm supposed to put them together. This is Manny, our family member and official Blissful Garden assistant. He's measuring those 2 feet from each side and then marking it with a nail right at the 1 foot mark. This way I'll know where to put the string. I'm going to take some string right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and make a knot. I used the nails that Manny just put in to guide my string all the way around. When I was done, I just used a hammer to bend over the nail so that the string wouldn't move out of place. I'll get some scissors. Okay, so we cut it, and now we're going to just finish it off by making sure it's secure. Another thing you could use, I have some bamboo sticks. You could actually lay them this way, or I bought these at Ace Hardware. Now we're going to do the string this way. So we put the nails a little bit lower so that it would be level with this, so that we can also go ahead and go that way and it could be kind of at the same level. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to go this way. We're going to wrap it, secure it. Now we go this way. We do the same thing. You can secure it the same way when they're on top of the ledge. The whole point of the string is to guide you where the square feet are. And then once you already know and the crops start growing, you really won't be using it that much more anymore. All right, so now you see we've got our squares. So we've got 6 squares on this side, 6 squares on that side, and we've got a middle. This is where I'm putting some sunflowers, and then I'm putting cucumbers, tomatoes, and marigolds on both of these sides. I took 6 of those bamboo sticks that I showed you and I put them in a circular fashion to make a teepee. Of course, I gathered the top and tied it together to make a support for the sunflowers. I have 3 poles that you can actually get at a big box store. I'm just going to use 3 because in the back is the cucumbers. So I'm actually going to put them in the back. Then I'm going to use these 3 small ones and I'm going to put them together like this, right? The 3 of them, and I'm going to tie them with zip ties. This DIY trellis might not be strong enough, and I'm okay with adding something stronger or taller if I need to add more support later down the line. Now, according to the square foot garden method, you can fit 2 cucumbers per square foot. I don't believe it, but this is kind of an experiment to see if that is true and learn for future reference. I do have a cucumber elsewhere in the garden, so we are okay. We space plants according to how much space they need to grow. For example, some peppers and tomatoes will take up to 1 full square, and yet some bigger varieties of tomatoes might even need more space than that. Other crops like carrots don't need that much space. You could grow 16 carrots in 1 square foot. I have laid out 1 tomato per square, 1 pepper per square, and my 2 cucumbers per square. If you want to know how to space your plants, do what I do. I use Google and type in how many radishes in a square foot garden, and voila, you have an answer. It says that you can plant 16 radishes in a square foot. Be careful with the bigger plants. For example, if it says that you need to space a plant 24 inches apart, you know that you're going to need more than 12 inches, right? So you're going to need 2 square feet on the width and 2 square feet on the length. And another way you could check yourself is check the back of your seed packet to make sure that your plants don't need more space than 12 inches. Now we're going to do the seeds. The first ones is marigolds. I saved these from last year because they are really good to plant with vegetables since they detract bugs. So that's why they're good for the garden. And that's why flowers are important for your garden. For marigolds, my old school way works just fine, but we're going to use the square just to focus on the marigolds. I just take this seed, okay, and the actual seed is inside, and I just do this. This is not square foot gardening method, but it's my method, and it's worked for years and years. So we're doing it with the marigolds only. So this, you just want to make sure that they're covered and that they're touching, and that's it. And we'll just water them, make sure they're moist, and that's it. Very simple. I have 2 types of seeds for sunflowers. One of them is an Elf's blend, which is a sunflower dwarf. If you look, it says 16 to 24 inches tall. So this probably is good enough for this one. I wanted to put this one, which is Moulin Rouge, but this one grows 4 to 6 feet tall. So I'm not sure if something like this is going to be able to hold them up, especially because the sunflowers get really big heads and they might start dropping. So I'm thinking that this, I'm going to have to do something different for these. So we'll do these here. We'll grab a couple, 1, 2, 3, cover them up. 1, 2, 3, cover them up. 1, 2, 3, cover them up. And I think that's about it. So we did 1, 2, 3, and then the 2 big ones. Let's put these back in. We'll water everything. Just be watered regularly, kept moist at all times. And then I think that's it. So this is what we have. Let's look. Here it is. It's not exactly as I drew it originally. It was adapted as we went, but it's done.